Right, awesome. I'm really happy to be here today, and the sharpest minds and eyes among you may have noticed that my talk slide differs a lot from the previous one. So I actually was going to give a completely different talk today, but a lot's changed for me in the last 6 months, and if you reflect on the last 6 months, has a lot changed for you? Isn't it moving so fast that your head's spinning? So what's changed for me is I was working in a two-person AI agent builder startup, and then I moved to a large enterprise, so a very different AI experience day to day. So I've seen both sides. But before we dive into that journey and the collaboration techniques that I've found robust enough to share with you today, let's take a little walk down memory lane to 2019. Let's take a moment, share for 1 minute with the person next to you. Where were you in 2019? What were you working on? It's hard to think about. Wow, awesome, you guys. All right, let's continue this afterwards with drinks. So where I was in 2019 was I'd moved on from a startup accelerator, leading the business there, shipping products for startups, and I started my own location-based startup. Awesome timing, because what happened in 2020? Do we even remember the last 5 years, really? It's been a really strange time. I'll just jump back a little bit. Is the back going? Skip past there. Here we go. So our top hard skills for product managers in 2019 were as listed. These remained pretty static for years, and as we look to 2025, and we're seeing a huge change thanks to the introduction of AI, robots, drones, all kinds of things coming in. These technologies require specialized skills, and as companies have moved from AI experiments and just layering in an LLM, we're seeing AI specialties start to emerge, and these are some of the skills that you need to learn to be able to master them. Not everyone's going to learn these, though, but these are the emerging specialist product management roles. I've been 3 out of 4 of these in the last few years. And so each one of these, I'm going to talk through. So we've got our AI-enabled product manager. So if you're vibe coding, you're already here. If you're using ChatGPT to 10x your impact, to move really quickly day to day, you're already here. And as you know, it's a muscle that you build and you get better and better. As well, a generative AI product manager, so they're working to include AI products, AI LLMs in the product, and that's a really tricky role to perform because this changes every time, and a whole new set of skills like evals, RAG, and a bunch of other 3-letter acronyms that are almost impossible to keep up with. An ethical AI PM, an emergent role in enterprise, rather than thinking about what can we build like the rest of us are, they're thinking about how can we do this safely. And a hyper-automation product manager, people are falling into this role from all types of parts of the organization. They're looking at how can we make the business run fast by automating one part with AI. So, back to that story about the big change for me. So, This is me sitting at drone deploy on my first day with robot dogs walking around, incredibly smart engineers, and I'm desperately trying to add some value and feeling totally over my head. So I used AI to help me write a PRD. The product requirements document, which had to go in a specific template that fits with the rest of the product team. I made the mistake, though, of bringing that to the product backlog refinement session and working through that with the team. And as you know, they're all incredibly smart people, and they picked up very quickly when they saw my blank face that perhaps AI had a part in drafting this. And one of the problems with using it in that way is AI is very rarely going to say, I don't know. And the answer on the Greenfields project that I was working on was there was no answer. And it had drafted a bunch of answers for things the team hadn't even figured out yet. So that was a real learning moment for me. I needed to change my AI collaboration style and the way that I was working to move me from being passive in the process to being active. So my first AI collaboration style is to think of AI as your coach. So you wouldn't hire the world's greatest coach only to put them on the field to play the game for you. But yet, that's what I did. And I think we've all experienced it, maybe done it by accident. So key ways that you can interact with your AI coach is to ask them the kind of questions that you would ask of a coach. So give me actionable feedback. Challenge my thinking. Ask me 5 questions. These are things that move you into a proactive position. So thinking through that PRD example, I could ask it to give me feedback on the PRD that I've written and respond to that and have it drafted in, but at least it's me seeding what goes in there. Challenge my thinking. So in the PRD, what parts have I missed? In what way will this not beat the needs of the customer or the needs of the senior engineers and the UX designers who are about to review this? And similarly, ask me 5 questions. So this is probably my favorite prompt to use when I'm working on anything, because immediately it reveals the blind spots and things that you haven't thought about. So next part. So as we know, no one is actually playing on a single player team. And the best products are built out by a large number of specialties to bring it all together and deliver a really cohesive product. So I highly recommend everybody build your AI dream team. So the way that I do this is I've got a senior product manager, a UX designer, and a project stakeholder persona set up in the AI workspace, whether it be ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. They're all different, but they're all very good tools. And I use these to collaborate with. The one I'm hitting up most is the senior product manager. This is my AI twin, who I can use as a second opinion and hash out some of those annoying questions rather than bothering my very busy colleagues. And at least I go into that conversation having had a discussion with someone about it. The UX designer I use to, so in the project that I'm on, I'm working with a fractional UX designer, so they're time poor, I don't want to ask them silly questions, so I'm often using them to ask about what they will need to be effective on the project or the task that I'm about to give them. And the last, the project stakeholder. So the project stakeholder I use to have a kind of dress rehearsal for the piece of work that I'm about to share, and it means I'm not wasting my project stakeholders' time, and I'm also prepared to think through the world through their lens. And as you know, when you're context switching constantly as our roles demand, it can be quite hard to think through their world. So this is a really simple thing to do. It takes about 2 minutes to get a base up and running. You go into your LLM of choice, you hit up the projects function, and just name it as a role. Then what I do is I load up the brain with authoritative, that's a hard word to say, authoritative context. So those are things that are fixed and known about the space that you want it to work in. And you may actually, if you're working on multiple projects, you might have multiple senior product managers or blah, 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 senior product manager, like camera monitoring, senior product manager. This allows the LLM to zero in on the space that you're working in and respond in a highly targeted way that fits your outcome. And it will help, just help you get a better outcome from your interactions with your LLM. So the other thing that you'll see in there, I've included a wide range of things. It's very important in the context that you bring in that you flag anything that is an assumption or that might change. So the way that this has got me in the past is AI can tend to zoom in on certain details that it thinks important. It helped me with communications for the workshop yesterday, and it was absolutely certain that the Wi-Fi was the most crucial thing to the outcome of the workshop. And similarly, when I was doing a project plan, it really zeroed in on the fact that one of our developers was taking 1 week before Christmas. And all of us humans know that the Wi-Fi is a given, and everyone takes a break around Christmas, and productivity slows. So it's important to be aware of also the lens with which your AI colleague is thinking, and that they may focus in on details that it thinks are important, but also make sure that the context that it's working in is current. So if something is an assumption, or it's an MVP, or a V1 of a product, just include that as a note so that it's working with the same context as you. Next, so when I worked at a startup accelerator with founders, every cohort of founders I used to onboard to Dan Olson's awesome lean product playbook and his hypothesis-driven methodology. And we've heard a lot about hypotheses today. I suggest that you use that hypothesis framework for yourself personally to be trying all of these AI tools that are emerging every day. And I want to be honest with you, this can be messy, distracting, total time suck, but also really valuable, because as innovators who are sharing into your organization what's possible now, the only way that we're going to know what can be possible if there's people out there trying them. And as product managers, designers, COOs, whoever you are here, you are the most technically, not second only to the developers, you're the most technically literate people, and you have a unique opportunity to show what's possible, because you can bridge the gap between the technical, the design, and the business. So what I tend to do is, when I'm trying any AI tool, I create a hypothesis. So it might be, I wonder if it's possible. I could phrase this in a more technically correct way, but the hypothesis is that it is possible to create an interesting, accurate reality capture time lapse from 5 images fed to the LLM. I spend half an hour trying different available tools to do that, and then I reach a conclusion. Is that a sound enough outcome to be able to present, to spend more time? So typically I say to spend $50, to spend $500, to spend $5,000. So this is typically how, and you can apply your delta of choice. If you're at a large enterprise, that would be different. So it's a little bit of time to spend a bit more time, and then spend a lot of time. So after I've concluded the time box, I then share my insights with the team on a Slack channel, because even though that may or may not have worked, that innovative spark can catch on with your team and allow people to try other things. And maybe your organization doesn't have this culture yet. This is an opportunity to start it. And if you're not confident starting it, then the product editorial community has a product and AI channel, and there's a few of us in there talking about it, and we'd love to hear more. And we'd love to hear about your experiments. So the way this worked in a real example for me was I'm not currently working in an AI role, in a generative AI role, but I'd really love to be. So I had a pitch to the VP, who's based in the US. She's a busy lady. She's got like 10 product managers. And I had to brief her on how our project was going and what it's all about. I wanted to play with, I wanted to experiment with the latest models in terms of video, because these are really interesting, and as a reality capture business, I wanted to showcase that I can innovate as well as just talking about innovation. So using a half-hour test, I fed it some images. I then created a time-lapse image, and what I created was pretty cool. So I appendixed that onto the end of the presentation that I had, and I said, I nailed my pitch to her, and then we had a couple of minutes to spare, and I said, would you mind if I could show you something? It might be interesting, fun, or just silly, but these are the things that are possible now, and this is what I've created. So I showed her, we had a good laugh, we had a good chat, and it really showed that I can innovate rather than talking about it. This kind of continuous sharing into our Slack channel that we set up when I started has kind of not gone viral, but the flames are picking up. We're seeing sharing from the designers. We've got the head of IT who's there listening and really cheerleading us on, which is great to have that support as well. And we're also doing two interesting things. One being where in the last quarterly planning, all the product managers were challenged to bring a prototype with every PRD that was for the products that were being slotted in that quarter. And what this allowed us to do is, rather than just talking about in words the features that we wanted to create, we could actually show it. And it was a real orientating moment for the team to say, this is the kind of thing that we're wanting to put together to bring to market. The UX designers among us are like, didn't you just show a whole solution? And I can understand that. So one thing that I've learned, and we're having a conversation about, is how to caveat what you're about to show in a way so that everyone is on the same page as to what you're looking at. I've tried a few different methods. My initial method of look at this thing I did with AI, that definitely doesn't work. And I don't do that anymore. But I do take the time to set the scene as to what I'm trying to achieve by sharing this. And also, a really great suggestion from the workshop yesterday was to keep a log of the decisions and feedback that other people have given before it hits the UX designer's actual workload, because then they don't end up doing the same work and decision making while that prototype's kind of kicked around between people when they're not there. Lastly, we've actually got some people in the design and product team who are shipping code to production. Wow. So in an experimental program, the head of IT is working to help the keenest members among us, me being one of them, to get set up with Cursor, to learn the code bases, and to start making small changes. Now, this is controversial, by all means, and we recognize that, but it's part of an evolving conversation. And you can see these are the changes that early adopter organizations like Drone Deploy are making, and where our field could go. But the future is uncertain, and not all this approach doesn't work for everyone, but pick and choose and try things and see what works for your organization. So, we've been living in a... So Moore's law dictates that every 2 years computing power doubles. But in 2019, ChatGPT couldn't even write a coherent paragraph. Now, as all of the attendees of the workshop yesterday can attest to, it's coding working apps in minutes. And I have to revise that because I actually, in that session, built a working app in 13 seconds. So think about how your product processes and the way that you work changes when these things are lightning quick, and like what's possible for you. So product management in another 3 years, not even 5 years. Robots being part of your meeting, being hooked up to a neural network, like going from idea to working software to delivering that to a synthetic customer base, to insights immediately, to shipped code like that night. Is this crazy, or is this what we're living into? So you can see some of the emerging AI specialties that are coming out. You don't have to choose to be one of these, but learning about what the distinct skills are for these roles and being aware of them, talking about them with your leadership and creating a culture, articulating that this is something that I'm really interested in or not really interested in. For example, the ethical AI PM, that's not for me, but I met 2 people yesterday who really want to champion for that in the organizations that they're in. And we've got 3 solid AI collaboration techniques that I suggest start trying this with the LLMs that you're working with. It allows you to build brain cells and become a better version of yourself, as opposed to being a passive person who is not in the driver's seat. Based on the example that I gave, it didn't make my team happy either. So the power is yours. Now go use it. I've been Claire Byrne, and one more talk before beers, and look forward to seeing you there.